Space is big. Really big. You just won't believe how vastly, hugely, mind-bogglingly big it is. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy says that if you hold a lungful of air, you can survive the total vacuum of space for about 30 seconds. However, it does go on to say that, what with space being the mind-boggling size it is, the chances of being picked up by another ship within those 30 seconds is 2 to the power of 276,709 to 1 against. By a totally startling coincidence, that is also the telephone number of an Islington flat, where Graham once went to a very good party, met a very nice girl whom he totally failed to get off with. It is comforting to reflect that Graham, Ryan, the Doctor and Yaz were in fact rescued. It strikes me that I should probably start these things off with an explanation of how I remember the episodes, to give some idea of how my opinion has changed. This one is a bit of a mixed bag if memory serves. The guest cast is pretty good, they keep things nice and fast and exciting, only slow down the bits where they really need to slow down, but the plot points are a bit too convenient. Like for example being rescued from deep space only seconds after getting there. Get ready for a lot of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy references in this one. It's also way too convenient that the Stenza happen to be involved, but that comes later. Overall I remember liking this one. But anyway, here the Doctor and pals are teleported to outer space, and they just so happen to have been teleported into the path of two ships that just so happen to be coming their way. Space is massive. This is a scale image of the Earth relative to the Moon. It's true that the same thing did happen in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but that only makes sense because there was a plot device in place to make the unlikely actually happen. Here there isn't. They are in fact rescued, in pairs, on two separate ships, and have no clue if the other two are even still alive. Ryan and Graham end up on a ship with this lovely person named Armstrong, while Doctor and Yaz end up with this highly competent individual named Epso, whose ship is falling apart and can't even make planetfall because he used up the rest of their fuel saving them. Both ships are heading for this place called Desolation, a lovely scenic locale with a pretty sky, which would be plenty habitable if it wasn't for all the death traps, killer robots and deadly water. Graham, Ryan and their new friend land on the planet, while meanwhile the Doctor, Yaz and their friend are trying not to die because this guy is really shit. This is the first time we get to see how the Doctor acts in a crisis, or at least a crisis that doesn't involve Blue Toothy Boys. She's very much like 10 here, but she hasn't completely lost the arrogance of 12, having completely forgotten that Yaz was there, is not used to space stuff, and is currently freaking the fuck out. And I love the way the Doctor comforts her.
You're about to die? Oh, sorry, Az, I forgot you were there. All gonna be fine.
They crash land and nearly kill their friends in the process.
Doctor!
Sorry about the mess.
Ominous piece of fabric! Ooh. The team's all there, and not knowing what else to do, they follow Epso and Armstrong. As the Doctor name drops and lends Graham some shades, and I'm not even joking here, they really suit him. One problem though, they're on an alien world, with aliens that speak different languages, far away from the TARDIS and the telepathic translation circuits. How can they possibly understand anything anyone is saying?
The Babel fish is small, yellow, leech-like, and probably the oddest thing in the universe.
Well, can people and things stop putting stuff inside me without my permission?
It's only a little one.
They come across a tent. They enter the tent and come across a holographic exposition machine, a guy dressed like a sheikh who handily tells them what the hell is going on. These two are participating in the last ever rally of the 12 galaxies. 4,000 entered, 2 are left. Only one will claim the grand prize of 3.2 trillion Kryn, and lifelong comfort on a safe world for them and their clan. Nice. Winner takes all and the losers left stranded. The rules? No sabotage, no injury, and no killing, which means that they all have to play nice. The exposition guy is rather perturbed that the Doctor and her fam are there. They apparently were rescued because Epso and Armstrong thought that they were extra prizes or something, slaves that they could use to help them on their journey. They have to get through the ruins, across the river, and to the Ghost Monument. And guess what that is? Turns out the Doctor didn't completely fuck up. I mean, she got it mostly right. They landed where they were supposed to, but the planet happened to be wrenched out of its orbit. So the TARDIS is actually there on that world, but the engines are stuck in a loop, phasing in and out of time and space, and has been for who knows how long. We come across more ominous fabric. They get to the boat and Old Mate doesn't want to share. But that's fine, the Doctor has it covered, with the triumphant return of Venusian Aikido. This was a martial art introduced by the Third Doctor, back when they didn't have such a sycophantic view against violence. The Doctor is considered to be the only being with only 4 limbs to have mastered it. The engine on the boat won't start though, and it turns out the water is full of flesh-eating bacteria.
Toxic atmosphere, killer water. Very dangerous planet, Yaz.
Want to see a toxic atmosphere? Try visiting Venus. Not only is the air toxic, the atmospheric pressure will crush you, and the scorching heat will cook you alive. And you want to talk about the air you're easily breathing being toxic? Ooh, more ominous fabric. But now it's time for touchy-feely time, designated part of the episode where everybody talks about their feelings. Graham and Ryan are having a go at fixing the engine, and while they're doing it, they have a heart-to-heart about Grace. But Ryan still doesn't want to open up about it. Meanwhile, Yaz and Armstrong have a chat about Armstrong's home world, but she doesn't know Yaz, and she walks away. The engine is fixed though, and off they go to have some more heart-to-heart chats. This sort of thing is a bit of a trend with chibnal episodes. And yes, I'm taking the piss, I know. I mean, rest assured, I do think that mindfulness is important, as is talking to people about your feelings. But in these episodes, it often feels formulaic, which takes me out of the story a bit. So allow me to sum up the remaining character development. Episode's mum is an abusive twatwobble who allowed him to injure himself just to make a point, explaining why he is the way he is. And Armstrong's from an overpopulated world where the Stenza routinely hunt the populace. Yeah, Toothy Boy's race. What's a coinky dink? So she's in this competition to move her family to a new world, and Ryan decides to take a nap. They arrive at their destination, and now it's time to set up a plot point. Epso has a cigar. It lights if you click your fingers. I wonder if this will come up later. They come across the ruins of a resort or something, and the Doctor wonders why there's absolutely no life on the planet. I mean, absolutely none. I mean, this planet is completely lifeless. Oh look, plants! They get into the place and Epso immediately trips a laser, just as the suns are about to set, which is bad because they were warned about travelling at night, when suddenly there's robots.
Your plastic pal is fun to be with!
With guns, which are activated by violence. So they run and hide, and they discover that they are sniper robots that need target practice for some reason. Ryan goes and does the obvious thing that you would do in that situation, and picks up a gun, but unfortunately the Doctor has a strictly no guns policy. This has already been covered elsewhere.
Hello, my name is Come.
But I'm going to talk about it anyway. The Doctor doesn't hate guns simply because they are guns. They just hate what people do with them. Guns can be used to take a life, but at times weapons are necessary for defense. And yes, I know, I never would and all that, but these things that are trying to kill them are not living beings. They are killer robots that are programmed to kill them, and they will kill them. This essentially is the equivalent of using a weapon to destroy a weapon. They can also be used to enact mercy, like say, putting a creature out of its misery, so it won't have to suffer a slow and agonizing death. But yeah, we'll get to that.
No. Guns, never use them.
Doctor, all the classic Doctors are laughing at you, especially 6. Anyway, Ryan makes a pig's ear of it, and only manages to alert them of their location, and the Doctor gets to feel smug. It's okay though, they're terrible shots, and the Doctor happens to find an EMP, which wipes them out handily. They also found some maps in the robots' heads, and those lead them to a pipe. In the tunnels, they find a lab full of samples and experiments and stuff, but they're off route. But the Doctor really wants to know what happened here, so Epso takes a nap. You know, we haven't seen any ominous fabric in a while. Oh look, there's some. Anyway, the robots ended up finding the pipe because of course they would, they left the damn thing open, and the Doctor finds a room with scribbles all over the floor. Turns out scientists used to live there. They were abducted, tortured, and forced to work, building new and innovative weapons for the Stenza. The planet was a testing ground. They're all surprised, and honestly, I am too. This is a random-ass region of space where the TARDIS just so happened to land, and Toothy Boy's race just so happens to be prominent here. What's a coinky dink? And it hits Graham very hard, especially after what happened to his wife. But it turns out that Armstrong's wife was also killed by the Stenza, so they have something in common at least. Roscoe is wrapped up in ominous fabric, they save him, they run out of there. Turns out that this stuff lays dormant during the day, but every night they come alive and they strangle people. So they find a way out, but it means that they have to climb up a ladder. And Ryan is struggling with his dyspraxia, especially under pressure. So the Doctor tells exactly what you should do when someone is struggling with a disability. And the Doctor tells Ryan to try and remember everything he could about acetylene from high school science class, and she encourages him with positive reinforcement to help him get a move on and get up the damn ladder. They make it out to a place called the Acetylene Fields, and they are ambushed by the ominous fabric. And the ominous fabric just so happens to be voiced by the guy who played Kevin Lannister from Game of Thrones. So the ominous fabric starts taunting them. We get some foreshadowing of the Timeless Child, which a random piece of ominous fabric couldn't possibly know about, as they all dig deep, and once they've dug far enough down, they throw up the self-lighting cigar, the Doctor snaps her fingers, and it burns the crap out of the ominous fabric. Hey, Doctor, I'm not sure that's exactly how it works. If the acetyleen's coming from anywhere, you'd think it'd be coming from out of the ground. How is digging a hole and then laying in it's going to protect you from the burniness? They did say that it's lighter than air, but I'm pretty sure you should still be burned to a crisp right now. But anyway, this is a very good example of the writers throwing in little snippets of information in an attempt to educate the audience. This was the original intent of the show, and it's nice to see it come back. So far in this episode, we have learned that acetylene gas is flammable, that's lighter than air, and that it can be used to kill ominous fabric. We've also learned how to deal with somebody who has dyspraxia who is struggling to climb up a ladder. I'm taking the piss, but I really do love this aspect of Chibnal Who, and I really hope that Russell T Davies doesn't drop it entirely. After the massive inferno they caused, they made it to the finish line. They decided to play nice and try and claim the prize together, but the exposition shake isn't having any of it.
No, I promise you that whatever happens, I will get off this planet. And if we don't get what we both fought for, I will hunt you down and ensure that whatever time you have left is both short-lived and agonizing.
And he relents. Yay! Everybody wins! Except for the Doctor and Powers, who end up stranded on the planet. It seems like all is lost, and even the Doctor has given up, when they start hearing the churn of the TARDIS's engines. She enters the TARDIS, and this is probably one of the best fake-outs I've ever seen. So, thoughts on the new interior? It's not my favourite, but the crystals are nice, and Jodie gets a picking dispenser. While they were building the set, they asked Jodie what her favourite biscuit was, and they built in a working biscuit dispenser into the console, as a surprise for Jodie. The companion's response to the TARDIS is great, in fact better than the response to suddenly finding themselves on an alien world, which was frankly underwhelming. So yeah, all was wrapped up, the Doctor got her TARDIS back, and she has the opportunity to take them all home. But instead, she's going to take them to 1950s America to meet Rosa Parks. So, was it really that bad? I remember the Ghost Monument as being not the best, but overall not the worst of the season, but I do remember it suffering a bit from tell don't show, pretty much the opposite that you want to do in a visual medium. The companions acted somewhat overwhelmed to the fact that they are on an alien world light years away from home, and they threw away one of the best concepts the new show has come up with, but second that it was convenient, that being the Doctor without a TARDIS. It would have been cool if they held off on finding the TARDIS just a little bit longer, have the whole system be a massive search for it, rushing to get to it before someone else does. Maybe involve UNIT, keep the stories earthbound, as the Doctor deals with alien threats while tracking down the chronon signature of the TARDIS, which is missing somewhere on Earth but she doesn't know exactly where. Or trekking around the universe with scavenged tech in a desperate bid to try and get the companions home and find her TARDIS. But we get the TARDIS back in this episode, so whatever. Overall, like the last episode, it was more fun than I remember it being. It has its issues like all things do. Being rescued from deep space is a little bit convenient, but I put it down to a loving homage to the greatest work of sci-fi comedy ever written. The Doctor's stance against guns and violence in general is somehow more grating than Ten's, but it's nowhere near being the worst episode of Doctor Who I've ever seen. I give this one a 6 out of 10. It's not the best, but also I can't really consider it being the worst. It's just fun, and really that's all you want out of your Doctor Who. In the next episode, racism in America. We meet Rosa Parks. There's a bus boycott. And there's a very depressing racist from the 51st century who really hates black people, even though in the intervening thousands of years, people would have gotten over that shit. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Please, like and subscribe. You should really like and subscribe. The YouTube algorithm is a Lovecraftian monster that feeds off the time and effort of smaller creators. If you like what you see, like, share, subscribe, and do all that, and I'll see you in the next one.